welcome.
Welcome back, everybody.
This is the Live, Love, Loss podcast, and I am one of your hosts, Katrina Madewell.
And I'm Jason McIntosh.
And this is episode 6 for us.
Yes.
Maybe episode 12, but this is episode 6.
Feels like episode 100. We're here.
We'll tell you that story on another day. But today's episode is going to be about sudden loss and picking up those pieces. What happens if you have lost your significant other, your child, someone really close to you, a best friend? We talked in a prior episode about how if it's someone you see every day, you talk to every day, it's even harder. Mm-hmm. And so where we left off last episode, we were talking about how to prepare for the loss if you know it's coming. And this particular episode is going to be about the sudden loss. So 1 minute your world is just fine, the next minute it's shattered and it's sudden. And what do you do? So that sudden loss is a special kind of pain, and there's a shock value that I think is worse. The numbness, all of those things. And Jason, it's probably a good time for you to recap the story because you've had the worst of the worst, in my opinion. Not only did you lose your wife from cancer and live through that, but then 10 years later, you lost your son. Mm-hmm. And I think, in my opinion, to lose a child, there's nothing worse. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's hard enough to lose a spouse, but I think a child is worse.
It is.
And to have that happen suddenly, it's a lot. I think the shock value and the trauma is the worst, but I can't speak to that. So really I think episode 6 is the Jason show, right? So retell that story and let's get into it.
I think just the title in of itself, sudden loss, says a lot because as you mentioned, I experienced both sides of the spectrum. And, initially, much like yourself, my wife was sick and we knew she was diagnosed. It was a severely poor prognosis, no known treatment. There had only been 100 reported cases. It was a kidney cancer called collecting duct carcinoma. So when my youngest daughter, who's now 17, was born, they removed a 6-pound tumor along with her kidney. That we knew that she had stage 4 cancer. My daughter was 9 months old when she passed. So, that was a process and, that was a journey.
And your son was how old at that time you lost your wife?
He was 13 years old.
Okay.
So in that situation, I thought at the time that it was way more difficult to watch someone that you love die and perish and on that journey. Especially my wife was Polish and very Polish. She was born in Poland and came here first generation, not speaking a word of English. And so if you know any Polish women, they're very, very, very bold and opinionated and very fierce people. She was a strong, proud woman, right? And that's how I always will remember her. Good mother, good friend, funny as can be, really full-spirited, larger than life.
I have a question for you? Uh-huh. It was like a shower thought, right? That we've never talked about. And so just real quick while you're on
shower
point.
Thought. Oh,
well,
while you're in the shower.
Not weird, not in a weird way. Just those random things that pop in your head. And
sure.
At some point you're like, yeah, I'm talking about this. When in your wife's final days, like however that was, I'm sure with cancer, you probably watched her get sicker and sicker. Yeah. And then that strong, proud, bold, like regular person that she always was, they're not, right? In those final days or hours or weeks. And I'm just curious for you, if you have any of the same memories like I had of my husband, which was always the strong, big jujitsu, like fierce, strong dude.
Yeah.
And he wasn't that person in the final weeks. And I hate that in those final months that those are some of my final memories. And we never talked about that. So I'm just curious if that's the same for you.
I'm glad you bring that up because here's what I remember and recall. And when you have cancer and you're in a lot of pain, they keep you comfortable, and so she had to come off the radiation and do more chemo, but at some point, just to keep them comfortable and going into hospice and things like that, morphine, they pump you full of drugs to make you feel comfortable, whatever it is, whatever type of drug. And you lose your mind.
Was it straight away though, like from radiation chemotherapy?
There just was. Shit was spread everywhere, and it was in her blood, and it was metastasizing everywhere. So she was lit up like a Christmas tree. So there just wasn't any saving her. So it was just about making her comfortable. But, you know, when they get to that point where they're making you comfortable, you really sacrifice everything else. So there was, I mean, I told the story, I think, on one show where I have this memory of my mother-in-law holding Ella, newborn, and feeding her some ice cream, but it was my wife's ice cream. And I just remember her glaring at her, giving her this look as if she was an infant herself, right? Upset that she was eating her ice cream. But then she would snap into it at times and just have moments of clarity where she would rise above it and say something just out of nowhere. I mean, the drugs were making her comfortable, but they're also doing her job. And there was just these moments of clarity where she'd just snap out of it.
Yeah.
So one thing I want to recall is they told everyone to come in and say their final goodbyes, right? And, you know, that in of itself, to say goodbye to have the children say goodbye to their mother for the last time is something you don't want to ever experience.
Yeah, it's hard.
But she fought through it and lived another 10 days, even after they pulled her off.
Yeah, it's
so
for me, it was so hard to watch the person that my husband never was, like, be this different person.
So I did see her become weaker and more frail, but I also saw the strength in her and the resilience, and like she was still fighting towards the end, like she was going to beat this thing, but inevitably she couldn't, and that's not her fault. But it doesn't mean it's down to the very last day. But I think
I don't like having those memories.
No, but
it bothers me.
No, but I saw the fight. So to me, that's what I saw. I saw that we're human, we're vulnerable. She was sick, she had cancer, but I saw her fighting towards the end, and I saw her leave on her own terms, not the doctor's terms. They said, you know, we're going to unplug everything. It's going to be a matter of hours, maybe a day, and 10 more days. She said, nope. Matter of fact, so much so where she didn't want to die in the hospital, she made that decision, and we came home. Hospice, and she died in the middle of the night while everyone was sleeping. So she did it on her own terms. She's like a big F you. I'm doing it my way. Right.
Told you.
That's how I would remember her.
Yeah.
I can remember because I told this story maybe once. We had built a big house that, you know, big fancy house, and she liked the smaller house that we were living in better because it's more cozier. So towards the end, we moved back into the old house, and I can remember her.
Isn't that something?
It is. I can remember her on the hospital gurney. We're going through the kitchen into the room where she'd be staying because it's a 2-story, so she couldn't go upstairs. And the phone was right there. This was back when we had landlines. So I remember her, we were just wheeling her past where the phone was, and she just reached out, not saying a word, grabbed this phone and just put it up to hear the ringtone to make sure it's on. So if it wasn't, I was going to hear it, right? So that's just those moments of clarity where she would just snap into it, like, okay, make sure this, make sure that. Like she was giving me a list of things to do beyond the grave.
On her way out, she's still giving you orders.
No, yeah, but that's how strong she was, and that's how much she cared, and how much she knew she was leaving everybody behind, but she wanted to make sure everyone was taken care of. So fast forward to the opposite side of the spectrum.
It was 10 years later, right?
But I used to say I would rather just get the phone call in the night, is what I used to say, because that was so difficult to watch someone diminish and to wither away to almost nothing, even though she became weaker and weaker, but I saw her become stronger and stronger in the fight, in the spirit, right? So she had that fight. So I thought that was very difficult. And then that's what I would say is I would just rather get the phone call. And then unbeknownst to me at the time, 10 years later, I got the phone call. And so that was the difficulty level there are all the things you didn't get to say. And it is more sudden. Right. So
we talked about that
on
a prior episode.
And they both hurt.
Yeah. We were talking about that before. Remember, Jason, we were saying you shared the story with your son about how he'd woken you up. Yeah. And you were a little upset and you took him to the airport, and then that was the last time you saw him.
Just don't ever let your last words to anybody be in anger. Right. So, and I know that's easier said than done, but.
And this is the purpose of the show, right?
Don't leave upset. Don't hang up upset, because you have no idea what is going to transpire next.
There's somebody today that's listening to this message that needs to hear it.
Yeah.
Because if you could go back and redo that, I'm sure you'd do a few things different.
Yeah.
And that was the premise behind the show. So live, love, loss. Yeah. We started the whole show because of the loss.
Yeah.
And then we're like, okay, what can we talk about? What can we learn about? It's like how to live for today so that if tomorrow never comes, you don't have those regrets.
And, the shoulda, woulda, coulda are always going to be there. The blame's always going to be there. And for myself, I had to live beyond that that blame, but it's human nature as a parent, as just a human, as somebody with feelings. I mean, it's natural for that to happen.
So can we talk about the shock and the trauma? Because it is different. It has to be different getting the phone call in the middle of the night as opposed to watching someone deteriorate. The shock and the trauma has to be worse.
Yeah.
So can you talk about that and how they were different from your wife to your son?
Yeah, I mean, it was triggering because it brought up the loss of my wife, and it brought up the promises that I made, and it brought up just, making sure that my son, her son, was going to be okay. And so there was a sense of maybe failure there on my part, but he was 23 years old, right? He was an adult. So as an adult, you make your own choices, right? So there was a certain things are out of your control. So, for me, one's a spouse and one's a child. So, I mean, that's also a dynamic too. I mean, it's not like I lost the child first and then the spouse, right? So, that I don't know if that makes any difference, but that was just my scenario, right? And
is the shock value and the trauma, is it worse? Like, is it harder? Is it? I mean, that's probably a bad question.
No, it's for me. They're both one and the same, because I mean, as far as the suddenness of it, that you go numb because you're still in denial in both of them. I mean, in one situation they're going to die, right? But I didn't go to bed knowing I was going to get a phone call. It was inevitable. I knew my wife was going to pass of cancer. That was a given. So the shock of the other is far greater, because it's just you replay in your mind all the things you could have done differently. I could have called. I could have did this. I could have, make sure you don't do this. Make sure you don't do that. How's everything? How was your first day? Did you land okay? Right.
Does the numbness last a little longer?
It's still there. It's still there.
But I mean, especially that first initial shock value sort of numbness.
You go through the normal stages that we've already kind of talked about, where you're in so much denial and you're in disbelief and you're numb and it's not real. Right. So, and again, for me, it was triggering because it stirred up all of the loss that I had not really gotten over, but it made it more, it's like you reopen the womb, it's the best way I can describe that. So they both equally suck, and they're both something that I think I learned valuable lessons from both of them. And we talked about the lessons that we learned just from a loss in general perspective.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But when you lose a child, I mean, no parent should outlive their child. And I guess for me, the saving grace is my wife. And that sounds bad, but my wife didn't have to be alive to experience that loss, because I don't know what that would have done to her.
Well, I'm seeing it right now with my mother-in-law, with Chris's mom. She's had a couple of strokes since Chris has passed.
Yeah.
And we were talking about this the other day. Her health has been a little bit on the decline. And even though she's in her 80s, she was always like a strong, bold, independent 80s. And she still is, but she feels like she's on this slippery slope decline. And I said, it's a lot of stress to lose a child. I've never had that. I can't relate to that.
Yeah.
But it has to be one of the worst things you'll ever experience in life.
Yeah. And I think the difference is, if you know it's coming, there's just certain measures that you can prepare yourself for. The loss is still going to hurt no matter what, but at least you can kind of have the peace that you've had some additional time, right? And memories, because it's coming. It's the sudden loss. That's a whole different animal, which is why from there, it changes your perspective on every second. It counts. Not that it didn't before, but you're just more careful and you're more aware that I even to this day, there's not an hour that goes by that I don't concern myself about a grandchild or one of my daughters.
How did that affect you, Jason? Like when you lost your son, having to tell their siblings, and how were you guys as a family?
They love their brother. I mean, my
Did he have any kids, your older son?
No.
Okay,
no.
So it was your middle daughter that has kids.
So my oldest grandson, Leo, his middle name's Michael, after his brother, Dennis Michael. Macintosh. So yeah, I mean, and the crazy thing about it is my 5-year-old grandson is a spitting image of my son,
Isn't that cool?
and his mannerisms and some of the way he carries himself in a photo. It's pretty amazing.
That's cool.
Creepy at the same time, but
Yeah,
amazing.
it's fun.
But it's a piece of him for sure. So
yeah. How do you even deliver that news that your children have lost their sibling?
Oh, I remember the day vividly, and probably when I did it, I mean, I might have chose the wrong timing. I remember my oldest daughter was sleeping, and I had already known it was like 1:30, 2 a.m. in the morning, and so I obviously didn't sleep after that. So, teenage, she was at the time. I mean, so what? She was 17, 18 years old. So, they sleep in a little bit, and I kind of told her as she woke up, right, or came in and had to have a conversation with her, and it was just for her. I could just remember, just like what, like she was comprehending what had happened, and like just the shock of it. So, and then my youngest daughter at the time, I mean, this was in 2018, so my youngest daughter was
probably about 10, right? And
10 years old, and so for her, it's just. You can't really, it's hard to really comprehend that, I think, at 10,
Yeah.
And she had never knew her mother. So, after that, I think it was just, she was very aware of myself every time I'd leave and the concern there. Right?
Yeah.
Of just, are you okay? Just checking on me, even at 10 years old, right?
That's what I experienced
Afraid
a lot.
me not coming home.
Yeah. When it's your spouse and one of them passes away, the kids get super clingy to the parent that's left, and that's what you encountered with your youngest daughter.
Well, she knew loss, but she never knew her mother, but she knew she didn't have a mother, so she felt the loss of not having a mother.
But it's different than having someone there and then they're not there. Kids cling to that
because her bigger sister was like her mother. So Mother's Day, when the kids at school would make those cards, she'd bring one home for her sister. Right?
Sweet.
Yeah. So first time that had happened, it broke my heart, but at the same time, it made me feel, good that they had that kind of bond.
Your wife would be proud.
Yeah.
She would be.
And that's why my oldest daughter makes such a great mother. She became a mother at 19. She's now 25 with 3 children.
So I guess we should talk about like practical help. So who to call, how to notify people, if there's legal steps.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of that, right? Like,
we talked about in prior episodes having your affairs in order, right? And
like as a child, children, they don't think about that.
That's what I'm saying. So in my situation, talking about the sudden loss, since we've already kind of covered that part, we're diving, I think, deeper into the loss of a child where it's not about having affairs in order.
Right.
There's not life insurance
because most of the time
they're
not going to have that.
And you don't plan and prepare to lose your child, so you're not even thinking that.
Now, your son, he lived on his own? He wasn't with you, right?
He lived with his grandmother.
Okay.
He had lived with me, but so his grandmother, my wife's mother, moved down to Florida to be closer to her grandchildren, and he lived with her so she wouldn't live alone. And we lived like 6 miles apart, so we were very close together, same vicinity.
So that's hard. I mean, because at some point you have to go through their stuff.
Yeah.
Well, did you do that, or was that your mother-in-law?
Did not recover and wasn't the same since. And I think having grandchildren maybe helped a little bit, but she got sick towards the end herself, and I think she was just ready to go because she had so much loss. She lost 2 daughters and a grandson, so she had so much loss in her life that when she got sick, she was just ready. She was ready to go.
So how do you do that? And did you have any things that were hard for you to deal with?
I never could go through his stuff. I mean, the kids did. I just couldn't bring myself to actually do it. That was just too painful for me. So yeah, the sisters, his siblings, took some things in memory. I mean, for me, it's just the memories that I have. And the other thing too is like you should take more pictures. You should take more photos, and especially in this social media time. I mean, I look back and the regret I have is not having enough of it. Right. So, especially with your children, I mean, we're so busy doing ourselves in our everyday life, and it's almost like our children have separate lives, and our kids don't want to be in our stuff anyway.
Right.
Ooh, Dad, I don't want to be in your selfie, right?
Yeah.
But you've got to force that upon that anyway. And I think now in our situation, because we've had loss in the family, I think it's important to document that and their memories that you're making.
Well, and I'll share a quick story about someone I know as it relates to this, right? With losing a child, but an older child. One of my friends I've known for years, her name's Sherry, she lost her daughter, which had moved away. She lived in Austin. She was an adult living with her boyfriend and suddenly lost her daughter.
Yeah.
And the thing about that, and I'm just going to leave this as a tip for whoever wants to hear it, she didn't have her password for her phone. She didn't have anything. So there was a lot of unresolved answers there. Yeah. And she felt like maybe it was a little bit of foul play on the boyfriend's part.
Yeah.
But she never got closure or answers on the death. She couldn't get into her phone. There were so many things that she couldn't recover or get into. So even if you're an older adult and maybe you're on your own, make sure your parents can get into your phone, or somebody you trust.
I never really thought about that as well.
Because she tried with Apple. They would not give her anything. She could never get into it. And so here you are as a parent, you've lost your child, but at least you know what happened. Can you imagine, like, if your son, if you think maybe he was murdered or something happened, but there was just not that resolution, I think it would be worse.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there was some of that for us, and there's still some unanswered questions. And at some point in time, I mean, you just, it can consume you and take over, or you just have to, you can't change what happened, I think, but having answers is important too. And it just depends on your circumstances.
Yeah.
And everybody's a little bit different on the circumstances. There was questionable things. It, wasn't like my son was killed in a car crash. That's different.
Right.
So, and I think that I've shared how he passed in this new episode. So I think it's important to get the whole story out of there. 23 kids are going to experiment. They're going to do things. And, one of the reasons why we moved from Missouri to here is so he would experiment less. And when I say experiment, I mean, that could be something as just taking a pill, let me take a tab and let me take this pill that does this, right?
Kids are curious. They're going to try
just
stuff.
Like taking an aspirin, right? So that's what had happened is he was clean and his body was susceptible, and went home to visit a girlfriend graduating college and took a pill, and that was enough to do it. You never know what's in that pill, and it was very powerful and very potent, and took his life. So then there's the whole, how did he get it? Who did he get it from?
Yeah.
There's all of that too, that it's
easy to point the blame, especially when you're angry. You want to almost take it out on them, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, you want to go after the person who sold him the pill. I mean, there's just so much, and you just it happened. It's not going to change it, and I hate to say it, but in some cases, some people have struggles internally, and it's not sometimes a question of if, it might just be a question of when. Because people make their own choices.
Right.
And some people have their struggles, and could I have done things a little differently? Yeah, I replay it all the time. Do I wish I could have done more? Absolutely. But does that mean it wouldn't have happened later?
Yeah. I mean, the next part in our outline is talking about that guilt and that regret, right? Like processing all the things that were unsaid, undone, just the things you wish you could do
and maybe
different.
Down the road, we bring in some counselors or some people who can help talk about if someone has issues with drugs or alcohol or things of that nature, if they have addictions. I think that's important to talk about. Let's talk about addictions. Let's talk about how to fight those. Let's talk about, can people survive that? I mean, could I have done more? Could I have saved him? Could he be clean and sober? He was clean and sober. So, and listen, he was a good kid. He was a light of the world. He wasn't, but we all have a little bit of depression in us, I think, at times. And so he had a tough road. He lost a mother, and he's seen a lot of loss in his life. And, it's hard for some people to carry that. Some people do better than that with others. And, I don't think he processed it that well. It was 10 years later that he passed.
Yeah. Learning to let go of that self-blame can be hard, because I think
he was 13 years old when his mother passed, and I don't think he was the same ever since.
How could you be?
Yeah. So, and I think it was the hardest on him because he was the oldest and the most aware.
And he remembers her, and I'm sure there's a lot there.
Yeah.
So, finding a grief team, I think, is important for a lot of people, whether that's really close friends or support groups or therapists or your pastor, your clergy.
If you're one of those friends, you need to do it for the long haul, because even years later. So when we talked about the temporary, hey, how's everything doing? Bringing the meals, and 30 days later, it's not off. For me, 10 years later, it's not off. Right. So,
I think it's important for us to mention that every episode, Jason, because we were talking about how it's overwhelming, the support you get in the beginning, but really you need that a little later.
Yeah.
More than ever.
You do. And I mean, there's going to be enough time where the loss is like, well, my wife, it was 2008, it's 2025. That was 17 years ago. I'm not married to this day. I'm single, so it's not like I'm in an active relationship or I've remarried. And, but could I? I mean, 17 years is a long time. It's a lifetime. I mean, you're going to mourn in the beginning, and people mourn differently. So there's no right or wrong answer on how soon is too soon to get back out there, because, my wife thought it was important for me to get back out there, get back on the horse. Right. So she thought that was important. She said, just make sure that she's good to our children. Well, she didn't have to worry about that, right?
Yeah.
So, because, I didn't get on a horse. So, there's no horse. So, honey, I did okay by myself, and that's the best I could do. So,
it's funny
here I am.
You say this, because the kids and I were talking about this the other day, and I said, if it were the other way around and it were me and your dad lost me first, I think he would have probably immediately got into another relationship and probably remarried right away.
And that's okay if that's the case, because that's how people heal. And I don't think you'd take any offense to that.
He was super codependent, and he had a little bit of a depressive personality. So if it was me, I definitely would have wanted him to basically meet someone else and be occupied, because he is a codependent person. And I saw it a lot with his dad and his brother. Same thing. Like, they would break up and almost immediately.
Some people have the need to be in a relationship,
yeah.
And some people are stronger being alone, or cherish that alone time, and I don't know. Everybody's different. That's what we have to understand. And we can't. It's not a one size fits all, and you can't sit here and cast judgment on anybody, because you don't know how you don't know how you're going to react. You don't know. You just don't know, and you can't. That's the other thing too. If somebody rebounds back and they've got dating apps up and you're in full judgment mode, I mean, shame on you, because
it's not fair to anyone.
You just don't know, right? Yeah. And you don't even know what conversations were there with the wife or the spouse towards the end.
That's
right?
true.
You just don't know. I mean, they might have been very adamant about it, maybe more so than you. No, honey, I couldn't even imagine. That's the conversation I had. Let's not even talk about that. But we really had to, and that was just her thing. Just, she wanted the children to have a mother, and so did I fail because they didn't? I mean. But
in the same token, you can't just plant somebody in your life, when you have 3 kids. You can't do that.
We talked about that too. You would think that women are always complaining, I don't want to get triggering here or bitter, but it's not that show. This is a different show. But women and men, what they want in a partner. So from my experiences, let me not go full trigger. In my experiences,
we have another episode for that.
In my experience, I would see the complaint a lot of times from the opposite sex was, because there's a lot of single women out there as single parents holding it down, and the men aren't present in their life. So, you hear oh, it's so attractive when a male is a really good father and a decent father and a very active and involved. That's very attractive, and that's a quality that I desire in a male, right? Someone who's responsible and can take care of their children, etc. So I always thought that, right? So you would think that, okay, here it is. Fast forward. I didn't ask for this. I'm now thrust into the world as a single parent now, with a 9-month-old, an 8-year-old, and a 13-year-old. So it didn't scream, I guess, desirability. It screamed oh, that's a lot of baggage. But yet I thought this is what you wanted. So it was almost it was a very awkward thing for me, right? Yeah. So maybe thinking back, hi, I'm a widow, meet my 9-month-old and 8-year-old and 13-year-old. Hi, please come and be the mother to my children, right? So, it just never, it wasn't in the cards for me. And I think that sometimes I don't think things happen for a reason. That's a very stupid thing to say. And if you say it, I'm sorry I said that, but I think bad things happen and you make your own reasons, because there's no reason why someone dies or gets murdered or what violence. There's no reason for that, right? I think bad.
Why 4-year-olds have
Right.
cancer.
There's no reason.
Right.
There's no reason for that, and so I think that it's a very cliche thing to say, right? And so we don't have any ill. No one has any malintent when they say that, because it's a very reflex thing to say.
Would you say everything happens for a reason?
Yeah, and I've probably said that before.
I believe it though.
I
don't agree with it.
Why does someone get raped and murdered?
I don't know, but I know
no reason.
I know that
Bad shit happens in life,
does.
and there's evil in this world. And I think you make your own reasons with what happens.
I think all of life is for learning.
It wasn't God's will for that to happen.
Yeah,
God's will was He gave us free will, right? So you're going to have violence and evil in this world. There is no good reason for that. And that stuff doesn't happen for a reason. But what happens is you take what happened in the aftermath and you make your own reasons.
And all of life is for learning. So you're going to take what you want from that experience,
so
good or bad.
Be very careful when you say this. So this is triggering for me. Be very careful. Everybody thinks things differently. The loss that I've experienced and what I've gone through, it's not so, I can't just categorically say that happened for a reason, right? It happened and I had a choice and I made my own reasons, right? So that's the way I look. Pass, happen. And sometimes in life, it's about timing. It's about a path that you take. I could have took a different path, right? But I didn't, right? So I just think that, and we got off topic here, but I think it's good.
But I can see your perspective. I can.
Yeah.
And on the flip side, going back to what you said before,
I will always disagree with that statement.
Well, before that, go ahead. You said you had an 8-month-old or 9-month-old, 8-year-old, and a 13-year-old.
Yeah.
And
9 months, 8 years old, 13. Yep.
So when I met my husband,
sure,
obviously it wasn't my husband's how I met him, but when I met him, he had an 8-month-old from a baby mama.
Okay.
I was 20 years old. 20.
Yeah.
Imagine me, a 20-year-old redhead little hottie. I was not looking for a guy with a 8-month-old.
Yeah.
And
no, I hear you. Well, listen,
it just happened.
I don't know if I know I probably talked about this on an episode, but for those tuning in for the first time, I mean, my son, who passed away in 2018 of 23, when I started dating my wife, biologically he's not mine. I started dating my wife. He was 1 year old and just was turning 2, and so I can remember when the last time he saw his father at that time. Picked him up for his second birthday. And I remember him asking his mother, because I was standing right here, is that my daddy or is this my daddy? Because he knew me more than the other.
Yeah.
And so he doesn't remember that, obviously. But so I've raised him and I adopted him and he had my last name. So you forget about that, period. You don't even realize that. And so, I mean, I have his name tattooed right here on this arm right here. These initials right here, DMM, that's tattooed right here on my arm. That's his name. So
I had the flip side to that.
So I'm going somewhere with this.
Yeah.
So once again, he didn't find out I wasn't his father until after the mother was already gone and his grandmother told him, even if he had a suspicion. So once he did know, he actually did later in life go meet his dad. And I found out afterwards. But guess what? We never had to have the conversation.
Yeah, we talked about that.
Yeah, and so I thought that was special that we didn't have to.
Yeah.
He called me dad. I called him son, and that never changed. And to me, I was his dad.
Yeah.
And to me, he was my son, and blood couldn't change that.
So you might feel the same way that I did, but I had just had this conversation with Tyler, my older one, that's 31, that was 8 months old when I met his dad. And I told him, I said, I was 20 turning 21 when I met your dad. And the last thing I was looking for was someone that already had a family, even though he was never married to your mom.
That says something about you and how much you felt about him. That says a lot.
What I told him is your dad was the sweetest person I ever met. Like, that's why I fell in love with him. And then I met you and I fell in love with you and it was hard to not love you.
How could you not be sweet at 8 months old?
Well, and there's just such a sweet innocentness, to a child that age.
Sure.
And even though there was some crazy baby mama drama stuff that happened, and I think your position is easier where they're out of the way, out of the life, you can have your own family.
Definitely true. I mean, I'll give you that.
We didn't have that. We had a lot of just other stuff I'll probably share on another show, but there was just a sweetness to it that I was just irreplaceable, you know, and I love him to pieces. Like literally he is my son. He's my oldest son. My first grandbabe was with him. He gave my first grandchild a month after we lost Chris. So I wouldn't change it for any, I mean, I wouldn't change
and what's his name?
Tyler is my oldest son that, you know, came with the package, as I like to say it.
And the grandson's?
And Bailey is my first and only grandchild, but she's my first granddaughter.
Yes, special.
So I'm a Gigi. I'm a grandma.
And I'm a GMAC, and I have that I have that tattoo right here too. So
going into
they call me J-Mac all my life, and I did not want to be a grand, just like
that's what I said. I'm not going to be grandma.
Not grandpa, so I'm like, I want to be G-Mac.
I'm a grandma, and I'll be Gigi.
When my grandchildren call me G-Mac, it melts my heart.
It's so cute.
Yeah, G-Mac. What's my name? G-Mac.
Oh, so again, going back to the sudden loss, little final tip and piece, I guess, before we put a semi sort of bow on this episode is permission to fall apart, right? Just the strength. Strength does not mean having it all together and being bold, like just having that strength to just freaking lose it.
So I have a saying, a quote that I have. It's even the strongest have moments of weakness. Thus lies the strength, leaving it at a moment. So I don't care how big you are and strong you are, and you know, if you are in touch with your feelings, I mean, that's strength, right? If you have the ability to break down and I mean, it's okay to have a good cry every now and then, right? So you really need to get it out of your system. And I told that story where the nurse came in and she just pushed a little button and then, you know, and you need that, because otherwise, if you don't do that internally, you're going to carry it, and it's just a matter of time where it's not healthy, and you're going to implode in such a great manner. You're going to do more damage to yourself versus just kind of letting it out, you know. However that is, whatever outlet you have, you got to let it out. You can't carry that blame and hurt and toxicity that's inside you. You got to get it out, because it could be the worst of you. And here's what I will tell you right now: no matter how you lost your significant other, what they would want for you in the aftermath is for you to move on and to be okay more than anything. They go to the grave and into the sky, you know, wanting you to be able to be okay. If you're not okay, then you're not giving their life honor. You're not honoring their memory, their existence. They don't want you to be broken into a billion pieces. Yeah. They want you to be whole. They want you to be good. And I think that's what carries me on into the world each and every day is, okay, I'm going to think about my wife, you know, Helena, which is now my granddaughter's name, Helena, my youngest one. And I'm going to think about Dennis. And they would not want me to break down into a million pieces and be worthless, because they want me to be the person who they met, right? And so if I'm not the person...
that permission to fall apart. You need it.
But I'm not. But what I'm saying is you can do that, and it's okay to do that. My point is you have to move on. Right. You can't fall apart to the point you can't put the pieces back together. And that's what I mean about it. I'm not saying... But
you got to let it out, like the nurse that pushed your button.
You're missing what I'm saying. You're missing what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, yes, let it out. But I also have seen people who let it out too much, and they're not able to come back out of the hole.
They never pull it back.
That's my point I'm making. And I'm saying, so there are some listeners out there that you're still in that hole, and I can't go on. There's just no way.
So where's that delicate balance? Like how and where do you find that?
I can't give you that answer. I can only speak for myself. So we'll have some people on the show that will give you those answers. For me, what drove me is them, and thinking about them, and thinking about what would they want for me today, each and every day. Would they want me to sit in the dark and to shut the world out and to just avoid everybody and avoid life? Would they want that from me? Is that
Absolutely
what they want? Not. No. So then that's what you have to tell yourself, no matter how hard it is. Yeah. And you're going to have days where you're not going to be able to, and that's okay. Just don't make them 3 days in a row, 4 days in a row. Just don't let it consume you and overtake your life to where you're in the process not giving their life honor. Yeah. And their memory honor.
That's well said.
Yes. I mean, I'm very, very, very passionate about that. You know?
Well, I told you about my dear past clients and friends that lost their daughter and were literally never the same. And one of the first conversations I had with Glenn after I lost Chris was, he said, don't do what we did. Don't grieve for 10 years and lose 10 years of your life. And it's a message. It was a good time for me to hear that.
Yeah, and not everybody is the same. So not everybody has the same capability. So you can't just expect someone to react in the same way as you did or be as strong as you did. I'm just telling you what worked for me, and everybody can take bits and pieces for what worked for them and find their own way and their own outlet and their own purpose. You know, if they passed away of a certain disease, or if they passed away from, you know, some act of violence or some random, then be a spokesperson or an advocate, or, you know, do some, you know, awareness, or raise some money to go towards some of these charities. You know, find an outlet, find some passion in honoring their memory. And I know
a way to honor
a
them.
lot of people do that. And even if you don't do that, that's okay too, because they just want you to be able to still live and still be okay. They want you to be okay.
Yeah.
They don't want to leave you behind broken.
Yeah. Sudden loss. There's, it's a hard one. It's a hard one, and there's no timeline for any one person, but you have to move forward.
And I think we can all agree with, there are times that I know that, you know, I don't know, there's signs, you know, you see signs, and if you're having those moments, it's like somehow they find a way to reach out and say, you know, it's going to be okay. You know, and you get that, you feel that presence there, and you feel, and you get the tingles, and you get this feeling that they're there with you at that moment. You see something happen, or some kind of divine sign that it's them kind of speaking to you.
I got a question for you. I've never asked you this before. Another shower thought I've had on my mind, but you know how there's like the psychics and the mediums and all this stuff. Have you ever met with any of them to see if they're right here with you? Have you done that?
I'll tell you
There's a story on this. Okay. I think we're going to wrap up episode 6 with the story.
Okay.
I haven't done it, but I want to.
Well, I'm going to tell you. So I told you my wife is very Polish and very outspoken and very bold and very, you know, so I'll tell you one story about a psychic and a reading and all that stuff. She heard, this is well before we knew she was sick, and across the street, the neighbor had some kind of we're going to do not a Tupperware party. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to have a psychic medium party, right?
So did your wife like that, or was it just like a one-off thing, or you don't know?
I'm telling you the story.
Right.
It's the first time she'd ever did it, right? So she went over there, did it. All I know is I come home from work, open the door to flying objects. Objects.
This is good.
And you mother, you know, just whatever. And like, you know, she was very obviously upset. I didn't know she was across the street at a psychic. I didn't know all these things were happening. I'm like, what did I do? I'm trying in my mind, what could I have really possibly done? Like, I didn't have a life. Work, home. It's not like I'm having some kind of rendezvous or some wild affair. That
you have
never
time
happened.
for that.
No. So then I find out why she was so upset, because she asked the psychic, is this the man I'm going to be with forever? You know, no, there's going to be another woman, and there's going to be this, and there's going to be someone else's life and children and all these different things. And so she told her the truth. What she failed to leave out was, I would be a widow.
Do you think she knew that and didn't say it? The psychic?
No, psychics. Do I believe in psychics? I mean, I always thought they were all BS, you know, but and I'm not trying to get into that because I'm religious too as well. So, you know.
I'm just saying, some people swear by it, some people don't. I've never been a big.
Tell you, Katrina, I'm trying to give you an answer.
We're having a conversation.
I know. I'm trying to give you an answer. So I don't have an opinion one way or the other, and I didn't up until that point. But I think psychics only know, so if somebody is touched, and when I say touched, I do believe that there are, because there was prophets in the world, even in the biblical times. So if you're very religious, there are people, even to this day, that are touched a little bit.
So psychics are modern day prophets. Could be.
Yes. So I think they might have some visions. I think that if you believe that, you know, even in the Bible, there are people had visions. So if she had the vision, she didn't have the entire vision. So no, I don't think she knew. If you truly believe in that, and I do believe in that to an extent as far as the vision goes, I just think that she saw what she was able to see and didn't know that part of it, right? Because that would have been, I wouldn't have flying objects coming at me.
But the psychics are different than the mediums. The mediums are the ones that like talk to the dead. So if they're there with you.
No, I didn't do the medium thing. But some of them do one and the same. I get you. Sometimes it's 2 separate services unless they sell you a bundle. You know, I don't
So we have to do a show where we invite a medium on.
We're not doing a seance.
Can we do it? No, not a seance, but can we invite a medium on and see if they're with us?
We're not going to break out a Ouija board.
No.
Okay.
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the mediums that can talk to the dead if they're still with you.
We'll take a poll in the future. We'll take a poll and we'll see.
So if you're listening to this show right now or watching it on YouTube.
I don't want to open up a portal.
leave us a comment if you think we should do a show, Jason and I, where we bring on a medium.
We'll get Zach Bagans from the Ghost Adventures in here.
Just someone that conjures up the dead and basically sees if Helena or Chris is here with us.
Oh, man.
What do you think they would say about the show? What would Helena say about our show so far?
The show, I think she would be fine with, and getting the message out there. I think it's probably the 17 years that she's been gone, every mistake that I made up until then, I'm going to hear about it. So it'll take a long time. But I say that in humor and jest, but in seriousness too. But no, I think she'd feel good about this because there is loss there. We had it. There's pain, and anything to do with helping other people through those times. I mean, she lost a sister before she passed. Her sister passed. Her younger sister passed 5 years before she did. So she knows she would be a guest here right on the show because she experienced the loss of a sister. And they were a year apart, and they were super, 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 super close. So that devastated her.
I think I know what Chris would say.
Yeah. Yeah. What would you say?
The same thing he told me when I started Tampa Home Talk. He said, find something you love to do and you'll never work another day in your life. Yeah. And he would say, you talk too much. So of course you're doing talk radio. So that's what he would say. Oh, another show.
Yeah. So that's my psychic story. I did do a reading not so long ago where it wasn't even a reading. Someone that I knew that did it, and she says, one day I'm going to do a reading for you. And just 6 months later, out of nowhere, she felt so strongly, and she's like, I just had to give you this reading. She sent it to me in a little voice recording, and she goes, I don't know if any of this is going to make sense or resonate. There was no fakeness to it. It was very specific, and it wasn't very generic. So if I wouldn't have had that, and then that happened to my wife, I probably wouldn't be a believer at all. But it was eerily spot on and accurate, where that could not be a one size fits all for anybody, because it would only apply to me in that situation at that time. And so you can say that with doubt, but if I were to play it and tell you what was going on in my life at the time, it could not. You couldn't use it universally for anyone else but me.
I don't know if I believe in that. So I'd really be curious to see what a medium says, right?
Off camera, we'll do that. If you want to do that, we'll see.
So if you're a medium and you're listening to this, especially if you're in the Tampa Bay area, reach out to us.
Yeah, again, only from my experiences and what I've encountered, it's really I'm more open-minded about it, I think, even as a believer or someone who goes to church and, believes in the afterlife and, practices Christianity and things of that nature. I don't want to sound too conflicting to your beliefs, but once again, biblically, there is some of that in the Bible, right? And I think there's a lot of fluff in some of that other stuff too.
Yeah, I think there's people will always find a way to make $1 on someone else's whatever. But
I just try to keep a very open mind these days because of my life experiences. A closed mind is the worst thing that you can have.
I think about the movie Ghost with Patrick Swayze and Whoopi Goldberg, where she's like I haven't made any I haven't brought out that wheel thing and made the clay and all right, so
pots or
we'll
vases
see
or vases or anything.
We'll see if we have a medium for a future show. We may, but
whip it up. Genie in the bottle.
Next week's show is going to be all about grieving with children. How do you help them heal?
Yeah,
we'll talk about that more. Did
I cover the topics okay? Did I meet or exceed your expectations?
I don't know. We'll get an opinion from our listeners here that comment, and
we'll ask
Rob.
There's never ending amount of topics that we can talk about. We get this 45 to 50 minutes to do this, so it's not like you could fit it all in there. We're both, I think, storytellers.
I think the sidebars are good. I think it's part of the experience.
Yeah.
So let us know if you like that or if you want us to stay more on topic. But I think the sidebars are good.
Sidebars are good. Just sometimes you have to finish a thought. That's all.
I'm trying.
Pro tip. Because
it's a conversation.
No, I know, but I squirrel. Like if I want to get to this destination, I just feel the need to get to the destination. And sometimes it's hard for me to get the eyes back on the road because I forgot what I was just talking about. When I get off track.
Stop parking in front of me. I forgot where I was going.
I'm saying there's just squirrels all over the road, right? So we're both a little touch of ADHD on this show. But I think it was a good one.
I'm your host, Katrina Madewell. This is Live, Love, Loss.
And I'm Jason McIntosh. Please stay tuned and come back for the train wreck next time.
Yeah, we'll see you next week. Thanks for your feedback.
Thank you so much. Talk to you soon. Bye.